Carinthia, Austria's southernmost region that borders both Italy and Slovenia. The sunny heart of Europe, with more than 1,000 lakes, plus spectacular alpine regions, and also numerous Celtic Roman excavation sites, medieval castles, monasteries and cathedrals. A modern region full of history and tradition. In the eastern part of Carinthia, and more than 1,000 meters above sea level, is one of the region's oldest historical villages, the mountain village of Diex. In the 15th century, the Turks invaded this area with great savagery. Thus, as protection, local farmers built castellated churches in which they sought sanctuary. They built walls with fire slots as well as fortified towers, and covered the roofs with stone plates in order to make them impervious to fire. Subsequently, a new Baroque church was built, and a number of its medieval furnishings have survived, such as the poor box, baptismal font, and an image of the Virgin Mary. Diex has the largest and most well-preserved rural defensive works in Carinthia. In 1091, Benedictine monks from southern Germany founded one of Carinthia's spiritual centers, the impressive St. Paul Monastery. At one time, an Illyric fortress stood on this site, later a Roman citadel. In the Middle Ages, the mighty Lavant fortress was built, the first seat of the Counts of Spanheim. Following the construction of the church, the complex was presented to the monks so that they could establish a monastery here. Stift St. Paul is famous for its large art collections. Thus, the monastery was known as Carinthia's treasure trove. Friesach, a city of castles. In the 12th century, when Klagenfurt had only just been founded, the town had a wall that also surrounded 8 fine churches, each with its own splendid tower. Carinthia's oldest city, Friesach, has retained what must be the true ambience of the Middle Ages. A fortified princely estate with churches and monasteries, surrounded by sturdy walls and a moat. The Emperor of Germany instructed the archbishops of Salzburg to convert the Slavonic heathen to Christianity. To repay them for this, he bestowed upon them generous estates. The ecclesiastical town fathers of Friesach were ingenious builders and great supporters of the arts. Thus, this medieval gem originated along with all of its imposing sacred rarities. The early Gothic stone wall illustrations in the Petersburg Museum are of much significance in the history of art. In addition to the old and well-preserved winged altar in the Ruperti Chapel, in which the few remaining frescoes can still be admired in all their glory. Once inhabited by counts, bishops and knights, today all those who come here can enjoy its historical atmosphere. In a remote valley, close to Friesach, is a small village that possesses a much revered sacred building, Kirk Cathedral. As with so many other women of her time, the Countess Hemma of Kirk lost both her husband and her son during the political troubles of the Middle Ages. So she became known as the Mother of Carinthia. She had several churches built and in Kirk founded a monastery that she later donated to Benedictine nuns. It was here, in the isolation of this sacred place, that she spent her final days. The building stands upon 100 columns that can be seen in the Romanic crypt. This is also the grave of Holy Hemma. In a side room, there's a huge 500-year-old tapestry that features various painted biblical motifs. At Lent, it covers the main altar. The Countess was later canonized by the Catholic Church, and Pope John Paul II led a pilgrimage to her grave in 1988. A 150-meter-high limestone rock stands out from the landscape. This site was inhabited during the Bronze Age, and in 1200 AD, the existence of a castle was recorded there, Castle Wörthersee. To gain entry to Austria's most famous knight's castle, 14 gates must first be entered. A replica of this castle featured in the famous Walt Disney film Cinderella. One of the most striking gates is at the Angel Gate. It is painted with the heads of angels. In front of each gate is a moat and drawbridge. From the battlements, there's a wonderful view that no would-be enemy ever saw, as Wörthersee was totally impregnable. Along the eastern wall is a tiny chapel that is dedicated to Holy Nicholas. Upon a ledge below the castle is a church that dates back to the 16th century. Here, the former lords of the castle were interred below the floor. The castle once contained armor and weaponry for around 700 soldiers. The enemy were forced to conquer gate after gate. While attempting to break through, they were attacked from all sides. Any invasion was doomed to failure. Five kilometers north of Klagenfurt is an ancient building high above the Zollfeld. This is the location of the impressive castellated church of Maria Saal. The facades contain tombstones and reliefs that date back to Roman times as well as the Middle Ages. The most famous of these features a Roman chariot and Romulus and Remus with a female wolf. With the onset of Christianity in the 8th century, the first church was founded here. And in the 15th century, it was replaced by a sacred building of late Gothic design. The Maria Saal open-air museum is situated in the heart of Carinthia. In this richly cultural and historic area, various representative farm buildings from all over Carinthia have been reconstructed. Carinthia's superb valleys provide visitors with a vivid impression of the daily life of this region. There are also various handicraft shops and grocery stores. Today, these old hand tools may appear rather unwieldy, but in bygone times they proved to be of practical use in all manner of work. Not far from Maria's Saal is the largest archaeological excavation site in Austria, the Magdalensburg. This was once the site of the Celtic Roman main town of the Noricum district. The inhabitants of this terraced town gained fame and fortune mainly from the highly prized Noric iron. The ore was mined in this locality. Later, the local inhabitants vacated the mountain. They settled within the valley and founded Virinum. The mountain town thus fell into oblivion. A small museum features a number of well-preserved finds, artistic vases and bowls made of glass and clay, and the stone heads of ancient sculptures. Around 500 years ago, a farmer discovered something while ploughing on the southern slope of the mountain. It was the Jüngling von Magdalensburg, a naked metal figure. Later, a Catholic church was built on top of the hill. And now a small park featuring a collection of local animals is popular with one and all. South of Klagenfurt is a breathtaking and wildly romantic natural monument, the Schepperschlucht. A pathway leads for more than a kilometer through a narrow canyon. The primeval power of these plunging water masses has influenced the landscape here for millions of years. In the shelter of the canyon are plants that were most likely growing here even prior to the last ice age. The route leads across narrow paths and wooden ladders to a circular tower and also a suspension bridge that spans the dramatic Chauko waterfall. Clear mountain water races down with a thunderous noise and huge cascades of spray as it forces its way down into the canyon below with tremendous power. Klagenfurt is the administrative center of Carinthia, a middle-class garden city that does not contain the fine buildings of the aristocracy. However, this charming old town has a good helping of southern flair, and the nearby Wörthersee creates a magnificent atmosphere of summer here each year. Klagenfurt's founder, Bernhard von Spanheim, keeps a dignified eye on this splendid city. At one time, both the swamp and the lindworm were much feared in this area. The lamenting woman waited patiently for her victims, and the little woman created a lake here. Such legends still abound in this city, the Rose of the Wörthersee, as it is also known. Following a devastating fire, Emperor Maximilian I handed the city over to its inhabitants. The city was rebuilt by Italian master builders who gave it a totally new lease of life. After a long period of prosperity, there followed all the privations of various religious wars. During the time of Maria Theresia, the textile industry flourished here, and with the building of a railroad in the 19th century, Klagenfurt was physically connected to the country's monarchy. This country house, the Wappensaal, features 47 former sovereigns recreated here in life-size form, plus 665 heraldic figures of numerous local trades and professions. The St. Parish Church in the center of the city was rebuilt following a number of fires. Tombstones are located around the external walls. Of architectural interest are several inner courtyards and arcades. Fortunately, they've recently been renovated and are now open to the public. Carinthia's real heart beats within the region around Klagenfurt that is surrounded by high mountain ranges. This is the Wörthersee, Austria's southernmost lake resort and one of the warmest lakes in Europe. A good way to explore the lake is by way of a circular tour by boat. There are wonderful views of various lakeside villages, and the boat also provides some welcome refreshments. Reifnitz is an extremely popular holiday town, a place of farm holidays and lakeland water sports, plus a whole range of entertainment. 905 meters high, an observation tower, the Pyramidenkugel, provides a unique omnidirectional view across Carinthia and its truly inspiring lakeland scenery. The lake was formed by glaciers in the last ice age. A huge ice flow ended here, and the mighty masses of melting ice created a new landscape. The Maria Wörth Church is situated on a rock. It is one of the most famous pilgrimage destinations in Austria, and an annual lakeside procession attracts thousands of the faithful. From the small cemetery that surrounds the church, there's a romantic view across the lake and nearby peninsula. Next, the boat continues to the opposite shores of the lake and past the promenade of Friesach, with its prominent lakeside hotels and open-air baths. The lake has been crossed once again, and we now arrive at the Weisseswürsel, a small house in the village of Schiefling. Eventually, we come to Felden and the furthermost shore of the Wörthersee. Its distinctive yellow castle was made famous by a television series. In the bay of what is probably the most well-known bathing resort in Austria, there's a multiplicity of things to do: water sports, boat trips, and resplendent sunshine. The town is usually crowded with holidaymakers. And the elegant lakeside casino doesn't only attract the wealthy. When night falls, peace returns to the lake, and its many swans enjoy the final light of the gradually setting sun. Carinthia's lakes are constantly cooled by numerous rivers, into which flow cold mountain water. The Wörthersee is also cooled in this way. On the southern shoreline is the Stift Friesach, a Benedictine monastery that was built in 1028 and is probably the oldest monastery in Austria. Following the savage invasion of the Turks, it was rebuilt and in the 17th century was given its present-day appearance. In 1783, Emperor Joseph II believed the monastery to be of no practical use and so ordered it to be closed down. In 1745, this wonderful church was decorated with paintings on both its walls and ceilings, works created by Carinthian artist Joseph Ferdinand Frommeler. For nearly 200 years, it was virtually derelict until in 1968, the Carinthia summer breathed new life into the walls of the monastery. Thus, one of Austria's most famous cultural events was born. On the northern shores of the Wörthersee, a winding mountain road and modern cable car travel up the 2,000-meter-high Gerlitzen. In winter, a modern ski resort, and in summer, popular with walkers. On a clear day, there are splendid views across the Wörthersee, the Großglockner, and the Adriatic. Paragliders take advantage of the region's favorable winds and from here set off into the valley below. An exhilarating adventure. The flying adventurers experience an indescribable sense of freedom when they overcome the force of gravity and enjoy a bird's-eye view of Carinthia. Berg Landskron is situated at the western end of the Wörthersee. The castle has a popular attraction, Monkey Mountain. A herd of Japanese macaques has found a new home here in this natural environment. Free to roam, they can also be observed at close quarters. The monkeys were introduced to Carinthia from Japan in 1996. These fascinating creatures soon settled in and even began to breed. The Wörthersee Bird Park is an oasis of bird life from each corner of the world. It contains a unique collection of parakeets, parrots, short-tailed parrots, cockatoos and lories, as well as numerous birds of prey. Friesach, gateway to the south, located on the banks of the river Drau. This is the second largest city in Carinthia, and it's full of busy traffic making its way to nearby Italy. In 1348, the church collapsed during Sunday Mass due to a mighty earthquake. 500 people were buried beneath its ruins. Its timber buildings were engulfed by fire, and the city was destroyed. But its reconstruction brought about its economic and cultural high season, and in 1759, Empress Maria Theresia, anxious to obtain the city for Austria, purchased it from the Bambergers. This city is full of lively southern flair, and for centuries sought recognition as Austria's most important city. However, this wish now becomes reality once a year at carnival time, the Friesach Fasching. Between the Carnischen Alps and the Linzer Dolomites, the river Geil has created a deep canyon, the Lessachtal, a picturesque valley that is also known as the Valley of 100 Mills. The valley's oldest church lies well protected deep down at the bottom of this natural canyon between mountains that are 2,800 meters above sea level. The main village of the Lessachtal region is the Maria Wörth Pilgrimage Center that is dominated by the Baroque Maria Wörth Church and the adjoining Servitin Monastery. A farmer's wife founded this church in the 16th century due to a miraculous healing that took place here. Its construction work took 100 years and was financed by many of those who had benefited from the church's special healing powers, their names having been carved into various votive tablets. The Lugar watermills were named after their original owners. Although these protected buildings date back to 1750, they're still in use today. Surrounded by high mountains and cut off from Carinthia and the eastern Tyrol, the Lessachtal is sparsely populated and far from the tourist trail. An isolated and unknown paradise set amid a fascinating and untouched mountain landscape. By way of a small side valley, the route leads up to the lower, middle and upper Volaya Alm. A fascinating landscape opens up, crowned by rocks and ice. The green of the mountain pastures gives way to the grey and white of pebbles and rocks. This path leads through a paradise-like alpine area, higher and higher, until just below a majestic mountain peak, the Wörthersee appears, blue as a peacock's eye. The calm and silence soothes the spirits of all who come here and makes them wonder, will such a paradise still exist for future generations? The Wörthersee is situated at a height of 930 meters within a high valley of the Gailtaler Alps. Due to its long shape, the fourth largest bathing lake in Carinthia is similar to a Nordic fjord. The region's main village of Teckendorf is surrounded by a fertile landscape. This is a lovely setting of hotels located close to natural meadows, along with a marvellous village atmosphere and relaxing beer gardens. The natural shores of the lake are of a somewhat light appearance, which is why it was named the Weißensee, the White Lake. Close to the shoreline, subterranean limestone sediment glows through the water. No rivers flow into this lake, so if it wasn't for the subterranean springs that supply it with water, it would have been transformed into a marshland. An idyllic spot for bathing, walking and fishing, all contained within Austria's largest nature park. Amid the Nochbergen is the Millstatter Sea. Compared with other lakes in Carinthia, it enjoys an excellent supply of fresh water. Its main village of Millstatt is dominated by a Benedictine monastery that was first inhabited 1,000 years ago. In 1469, the Order of the Knights of St. George chose this location as the center for a rebellion against the invading Turks. Later followed the Jesuits. Due to their high demands on the local population, they caused a rebellion among the local farming community. But the monastery survived. With idyllic courtyards, romantic cloister, a 1,000-year-old oak tree, well-preserved frescoes and a church in which a program of international concerts now takes place. The church is beautiful. Here, Romantic and Gothic elements unite with Baroque design to form a magnificent whole, a place of serene contemplation. One of the most individual and finest landscapes in Carinthia is situated northeast of the Millstatter Sea, the Nochberge that was designated as a national park in 1987, along with the splendid Nochalm. Everywhere, only soft, circular forms, all swathed in a wonderful covering of green. The isolated area is a place of shelter for both animal and plant life. And there's an abundance of mountain pastures. A good, though winding road, provides motorcyclists with an adventurous ride through this magnificent landscape. On each side of the road, the landscape possesses a special charm that is unique in the Austrian Alps. The magic of this landscape is reminiscent of ancient legends that tell of Walpurgisnacht. It was said that dancing witches and wizards once met here with a courageous treasure hunter who attempted to discover the secret hiding place of a vast treasure buried within the mountains. However, the treasure still remains undiscovered. Due to its many waterfalls, the Multetal in the Hohentarn is also known as the Valley of the Plunging Waters. This is another world. 24 meters long, a single precipitous mountain road climbs 1,000 meters above sea level. It contains breathtaking bends and tunnels set within a magnificent mountain setting. The road passes an old mountain pine oil distillery, today a museum. Our destination is the highest river dam in Austria, the Kölnbrine Dam. 200 meters high and 600 meters wide, it contains 200 million square meters of water, whose power activates the turbines of Austria's largest power station. The people of Carinthia realized long ago that water power is one of the main sources of energy that also has the advantage of being environmentally friendly. Much research went into selecting the most suitable location for the collection of the mountain water. Then, tentatively at first, dams and pipes were introduced. Here, water is omnipresent, and the valley's local inhabitants learned long ago how to harness and control the amazing power of water. From the Moat, a cable car travels into infinity, an adventurous journey into the mountain world of Friesach. At a height of 2,000 meters, we transfer to a narrow gauge railway that travels along at a comfortable 30 kilometers an hour. Past impressive rock formations, through a long and narrow tunnel, and often close to the edge, to a station that is probably situated higher up in the Austrian mountains than any other. From here, there are various pathways that seem to lead to the heavens, to a rock-strewn mountain world, to the Friesach reservoirs and fantastic views, a celebration of both earth and sky. But beware. In the mountains, the weather can change with little or no warning, and sunshine can be followed by a sudden thunderstorm. These mountain lakes collect the rain and melting water from the surrounding mountains, from where it flows down into the valley below to a hydraulic power station. From Malnitz, a cable car travels up into the spectacular high mountains of the Ankogel. The breathtaking route travels to a height of 2,636 meters amid the natural landscape of the Hohentarn. From here, there's a sensational view over 3,000-meter-high mountains. When the weather is good, it's possible to see as far as the eastern and southern Tyrol, plus the nearby region of Salzburg. Here, it's easy to understand why Austria is also referred to as the land of mountains. Although the region has lost much of its wilderness, the primeval power and beauty of this mountain world is still plain to see. To protect the environment, tourism here has been kept well under control. It took millions of years for the Alps to take on their appearance of today. They were formed during the last ice age. Slowly flowing glaciers moved from west to east and piled up huge moraines that stand today as mountains located between the riverbed of the Drau and the lakeland areas. Close to Friesach in the Moat is a unique place. For thousands of years, a small river created one of the most beautiful sights in the Alps, the Raga Canyon. Here, the natural power of water cut its way through the stony mountainscape. An impressive demonstration of the incredible power of nature. Across breathtaking passes and bridges, between steep rock walls, higher and higher, and now the sound of raging water fills the narrow canyon. Finally, from beyond the haze of water, the sky appears once more. This 800-meter-long pathway that rises for 200 meters has existed for more than 100 years. On the northern section of the Moat, a road travels to a height of 1,200 meters to the main station of Austria's longest subterranean railway, whose next station is located a further 1,000 meters up the mountain. From there, a cable car travels to a height of 3,000 meters to the Moataler Gletscher. A journey to this, the only accessible glacier in Carinthia, is well worth a visit in both summer and winter. A unique adventure set amid 30 3,000-meter-high mountain peaks. An amazing mountain landscape with shining glacial lakes and eternal fields of snow and ice, and with a fascinating flora that is adapted perfectly to the local climate. An untouched mountain region that is most certainly good for the soul. Friesach is famous for its mills. On these steep mountain slopes, one mill was built upon another in order that they could each utilize the water power from the single source. Upstream towards a natural spring, the Moat becomes increasingly narrow. Here, farm buildings and tiny villages are not situated at the bottom of the valley, but instead cling to the upper, sunnier slopes. The sight of this mountain village at the foot of the Großglockner is truly captivating. Heiligenblut. In this book are the names of each of the 500 people who've lost their lives on the Großglockner since the year 1800. Unfortunately, some have never been found. This charming mountain village has a long history. In the crypt of this Gothic church is the tomb of the Byzantine general Brictius, who is said to have brought here a small bottle that contained the blood of Christ. In the nearby Friesach, there was once a gold prospector's village, for it was in this area that the famous Tauern gold was first discovered. From Heiligenblut, a mountain road leads up the Franz Josefshöhe and to a spectacular view across the Wörthersee, the longest glacier in the Eastern Alps beneath the Großglockner, that at a height of 3,798 meters above sea level is the highest mountain in Austria. An inhabitant of Villach, Albert Wörth, decided to set about protecting this environment following a trip to America. Inspired by America's Yellowstone Park, he purchased this area between the First and Second World Wars and was thus the savior of the Großglockner. But the dramatic warming of the atmosphere in recent years has also managed to affect the Wörthersee. It is now melting at an unprecedented rate. Many who come here are attracted by the eternal ice and climb down to the end of the glacier, to its most extreme edge. A mountain railway travels from Wörthersee up to where a group of marmots show themselves off to visitors. The Großglockner High Alps Road travels through one of the greatest natural landscapes in the world, the Hurtan National Park. A remarkable mountain world in which nature is at its most glorious. This mammoth road construction originated between 1930 and 1935 and was designed by Franz Wallach, a Carinthian engineer. This is the most famous road through the Alps. It crosses each of the climatic and vegetation zones of both Austria and the Arctic: meadows, forests, mountain pastures, rock and ice. The highest point of the road is called Hochta. It is located at an altitude of 2,574 meters above sea level and is the frontier region between Salzburg and Carinthia. Once the Celts traveled across this mountain summit, followed by the Romans and later the Salma. Today, motor vehicles journey through this ingeniously designed tunnel. On the Salzburg side, the views are quite outstanding. So it is not surprising that each year around 1 million visitors travel on this road. On the Brennkogelkar, a plaque commemorates a group of pilgrims who perished on the ice here. Various locations not only provide spectacular views, but also interesting information on both the geology and birds of prey of this region. This idyllic picture of unspoiled nature hides the fact that Carinthia's border is nearby. There's also a memorial to Franz Rell, who was responsible for the road on the Salzburg side. There's yet another memorial on the Fuschletal that is dedicated to those workers who were killed during the road's construction. A futuristic vision created by man. This land of mountains, castles and lakes possesses natural beauty, exciting adventures and southern flair. A treasure trove of history gradually being discovered by those from far and wide. Carinthia, a paradise of sun and ice, of nature, history and culture.